There we go. Happy Sunday. How are you? This is too bright for me. Hi. Okay. There you go. I will have to turn the computer up a little bit, though. I'll be able to read from that. How are you? What are you up to? Have you had a good day? We've had another mole in here. We've had one every day. I mean, I guess back in the day, if you were like starving or whatever, then this would be a pleasant thing. Your animal would bring you little gifts and you'd be like, oh good, I'll put it in the mole soup or whatever. You'd serve it up. I don't know what you do with it. They're little. Could you deep fry? Okay, I don't want to think about it. They're very cute. They're sweet little things. They've got whiskers. They're cute. And they show up and they just show up on the floor. Deceased. So we've had to deal with a lot of death. I guess that's what happens in the late spring, early summer. You know, like lots and lots of life means like snipping it down because, I mean, the cat's not hungry. The cat's not hungry. So why did they do that? Why did they do that? Lord, why did they do that? It's part of living in a fallen state. Yeah, I guess so. All the killing. Okay. Let's see what we have in our notes today. In our granny porch notebook still. It's still haunting me a little bit. The sound. Okay. I was thinking about the musical of the last ship, right? The last ship. And I was thinking about the name Swan Hunters, because I think it's Swan and Hunter and such and forth. I can't remember exactly what the name of the company was, but there's a company name that the company was going out of business. And for some reason, the phrase Swan Hunter just really like caught my imagination. Oh, you know what I say about, knowledge is power, but imagination is freedom. So it caught my imagination, this idea of a swan hunter. And I thought, do they actually hunt swans? This is something that's done? So then I Googled that. Of course, turns out, yes, they do. Turns out there's certain states, there's like a handful of states where you're allowed to hunt swans. And I live in one of them. Why in the world? This is what I was asking myself. Why in the world would someone want to hunt a swan? And then I asked myself, well, is it that different than like a goose? Or a stork or something? I mean, and then I think, why are we hunting birds that are like flying? They're like free and happy in the sky. We're like, why are we doing that? Is it just for sport, like the cat bringing the mole in? Is this? Is it the pride of life? Because the cat seems proud. You know, like they're showing off. And then I saw a title of a video which I didn't watch, but I thought it was a pretty funny title. It was like, aliens sent cats to the earth to spy on humans. I thought they do seem a little bit weird, and they seem kind of spy-like, and you could see where somebody could believe that. There have been a lot of strange beliefs about cats. They don't help their cause, I have to tell you. I mean, they do act very strange and kind of creepy sometimes. So anyway, Swan Hunter. So I was thinking about that. Who hunts swans? And then I thought metaphorically. So then I thought about the movie Black Swan and the destiny swapping and like the metaphorical hunting of swans, like hunting of gifted people who are then sort of like swapped out with or kind of stalked and kind of siphoned from and things like that. So I thought about that. So, well, thank you for that inspiration for that. I really enjoyed thinking about that, but I didn't enjoy thinking about hunting swans. The idea of it is really creepy. Now, in that play, I think it's just people's names. I don't think they actually hunt. I don't think it's about swan hunting, as far as I can tell. It's a story about a shipyard that's going out of business or whatever. It's not about swan hunting, so, which I just think would be very bizarre. If you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a swan hunter. And then I thought, well, am I that prejudiced? Is it because it's beautiful? Is it because it's like regal and like, I guess maybe so. How do you feel about swan hunting? What if you were like, somebody invited you over and they're like, yeah, we're going to have swan. Like, would you be excited about that? And then Ken was reading from something that said swan used to be like a medieval delicacy. And I guess maybe it still is somewhere. I don't know. There appear to be different categories of swan as well. Like there's some swan that they don't mind that you kill because it's some sort of invasive thing that's like taking over places. So they encourage it or whatever. I don't know what they look like compared to the others. I didn't get that deep into the study, to be honest. I just wanted to know, like, who goes out. I don't mean to laugh about it, but it's funny to me that this is like the very last thing in the world I'd want to do is grab a gun and shoot it. I mean, it's the last thing in the world. That's why I feel like I'm from another planet sometimes. Because I think, like, I might want to, like, sneak up on it and watch it for a while or film it or, like, maybe even try to make friends with it. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to kill it. Okay. My diet is going to get really small if I only eat the animals that I would kill. I mean, I just don't know how many of them I would, really. I mean, this is where we're so disconnected from what we eat. I know. Okay. All right. How's your diet? It's probably way better than mine. Okay. I mostly eat cheese and crackers. I mostly eat cheese and crackers lately. Why? It's a really dumb rut to be in, but it's a cheese and crackers rut. Okay. Mind your own diet. Okay. What else do I have to say? All right, swan hunters. Yeah, what in the world? And then I was thinking about what one of these fellas, I can't remember what his name, Chase Hughes, was talking about an open loop. Like when you're scrolling on your phone, these companies design it where there's like no end. So you could just like scroll, did he scroll into infinity. It's not ever going to end. So there's no natural breaking point for you. So this is where I guess for your own benefit, if you're a scroller, which I don't really do much phone stuff anymore, but if you're a scroller and that bothers you and you maybe realize you're losing lots of time just scrolling, I guess you can set an alarm or something. But that's just to say that open loop, that's where the enemy wants to stick you in, an open loop, and just keep it going and going and going and going. And then if you somehow manage to get out of your loop, he wants to somehow lure you back into that one or maybe an adjacent, loop adjacent, just something else that's similar so he can just keep you stagnant in some way. So be aware of that. Be aware of the open loop, that you're going to have to make a cognitive effort. And you'll have to be disciplined with yourself. And if you find yourself not being able to be disciplined around certain things, certain habits or certain things, then I guess it has to just be eliminated. So, there you go. All right. All righty. Open loop. Careful of the open loop. Okay. I mean, that's for everything. If we can't put limits on things, if we can't be temperate in something, then we have to think about the damage it's doing to us then. If we open loop it all day long, that's where he wants us to be. Another thing I was learning about was Stonehenge. I was watching a robot movie about how they have fed all of what they know about Stonehenge into this Grok. Is his name? See, it's already weird to give it a name. It's a robot. Robot Grok, okay? I don't want to start addressing Grok like he's a person. Robot Grok. So, Robot Grok has of course, recognized the moon calendar and the small, divots around Stonehenge. Stonehenge is this big stone circle that's really famous in the UK, if you're not familiar with it. And then they talked about how Grok has identified the inside, which is comprised of a lot of these giant stones, and they're all kind of intricately placed in there. And then some are different types of stone, and they all vibrate and resonate at different frequencies naturally. They seem to have been arranged very, very specifically. And Grok called it a tuned acoustic environment aimed straight at the human body. Tuned acoustic environment. Tuned as in it's, I guess, encapsulated if you're standing in the middle of it. And I guess if there's sound, vibration, whatever. I mean, they do a lot of drumming there. I mean, they do a lot of different rituals there. Anyway, so a tuned acoustic environment. It was talking about how it was so specifically aligned to resonate in this sonic way that causes the human being to experience weird things at a certain frequency. So, I mean, it just sounds like a fallen angel thing to me. It sounds kind of like maybe built by the giants with their giant hands, being able to just sort of carry the rock down from Wales or wherever they went. You know, some people don't believe in that stuff. And then, I mean, other people, how else will you explain these things? It feels like a portal to me. It feels like another type of Tower of Babel thing where it's using sound frequencies to tap into the spirit realm in some way. That's what it seems like to me. But I thought it was interesting that I hadn't ever realized that it was like if somebody's standing in the very middle of something like that, or you could construct something like that, I guess, with certain rocks that resonate, certain types of stone that have certain frequency. And if you played your instrument right within there, or sang, or something like that, I mean, I'm not really sure what would happen there. I mean, I'm not sure I don't know if I'd recommend that spot. I mean, it is surrounded by a triangle that's filled with people that are buried there. There's burials at 3 spots in this perfect triangle around. So it's possible there were sacrifices made there. Lots of things are possible. I think you can rest assured some creepy stuff has happened there. I'm pretty sure of that. What else did I learn about it? I mean, just the idea that the stones came from very different places and they were huge. I mean, that just lends... The stones came from places where some of those giant skulls have been found, which no one ever has any explanations for those. You see pictures of stuff like that in like the Guinness World Book of Records, and also just in different reports about what the Smithsonian has and stuff. Nobody's really explained these ginormous, these huge bones. Anyway, like these skulls, like a skull that's like way huger than a normal human skull. Nobody's explained that stuff yet. But I have a feeling it's all going to just fall into place. Jigsaw falling into place. Right, Tom? Okay. I was thinking our song could just be, "Hello, my lord." Or maybe we could just make a silly. We could make a silly one. We can make it for Jesus. It's called, "Hello, my lord." And of course, we'll have to put on our thickest accent. All right, what else do we have? Okay, now this is what I woke up. I was sort of in a rant about this morning. But really, I mean, it's not really to be ranted about right now. I mean, I feel pretty peaceful and happy about it right now. But the idea that the enemy has actually, like, caged people's soul. And then I was thinking about, well, what is the soul? You think if the soul is that part of you that makes you who you are. That I want, I think, I feel part of you. The feelings, the thoughts, and the actions, the will, the I am part of yourself. That would be your soul. And the more you sell parts of that off, that would be like, instead of saying what you truly believe in, you agree for some reason. You make an agreement. Maybe you have a contract. Maybe you're doing it for money. Maybe you're just wanting to fit in. Whatever it is. The more you, like every time you agree with something that you really don't agree with, that's selling just a little teeny scoop of your soul off, you know? And Satan comes in and takes some of these chunks of soul in trauma or in certain deals where he makes these big promises that end up to be a lot less appealing than they first seemed. That's the crossroads thing, you know. I guess some people would rather have like short-term success and glory, even if it's long-term torment. Anyway, so the idea that your soul can be captured, and of course that sets me off in my imagination. Then I think, well, what is it made of then? Because I was reading about soul cages. You know, I'm always doing a deep dive on something. And the soul cages is based on this story about a fisherman. I guess it's a wicked fisherman or something. I'm going to get the story. I'm going to butcher the story. Maybe I should just read it. Let me see if I have it pulled up here. I think it's like this wicked fisherman that lived in the ocean that would like capture people's soul. And hold on, let me just see. There it is. All right. This is the quote that he says about it. I think Sting said this. It says, "The Soul Cages is an old British folk tale I remembered from being a child, and I wrote the song. There was nothing else to call the record. I think it's a powerful image. The folk tale is about the souls of the dead being kept under the sea by an old fisherman. And if you want to free the souls of the dead, you have to go under the sea yourself and drink with him. If you drink him under the table, the souls will go free. If he drinks you under the table, he keeps you forever in a lobster cage." No, not a lobster cage. I think that says something about death. What it's saying is that to understand about death, you have to die a little bit yourself. It might say something about drink, too, but I won't go into that. Once I'd written that song, it was going to be the album title. All right, so if he drinks you under the table, he keeps you forever in a lobster cage. A lobster cage? Are we kidding? Okay, so I looked up lobster cage because I didn't know what that was like. And oh, wow, what a sad thing that is. I mean, they have newfangled ones, but like I looked up the old-fashioned one that would be more part of a folklore or whatever. It's so sad, you guys. The lobster's like lured in. It like comes in through this little hole, but then it can't quite get out. And then they lure it into this second area that they call the parlor. I found that so creepy. They lure it into a second area called the parlor, where it's then trapped and now it's sitting there, and it has to just be waiting to be harvested then. Lobster trap. All right, so then, of course, I'm going to fly to fancy in my mind. What does the soul actually consist of then? Does it need a mason jar, or could it be stored in a lobster cage, in which case it must have enough volume in some way to not be able to get through the... Because I was thinking that the mason jar was more like like a solid thing. So now I don't really know. It must all be metaphorical, in which case that leads me to the scripture that I was reading that really moved me this morning to like get ranty, but I don't need to rant about it now. But it is about, let me pull it up right here. I have it. It is about somewhere here. Luke, let's see what it is. It's from the Amplified Bible, Luke chapter 4. Let me start in verse... okay, so in Luke chapter 4, Jesus was already tempted by the devil. And of course he told him to F off, is what he said. He didn't say that, I'm just kidding. Okay. Alright, when he finished, alright. Jesus' public ministry. Okay, this is from the Amplified Bible. Okay, so Luke 4:14. Then Jesus went back to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and the news about him spread through the entire region. He began teaching in their synagogues and was praised and glorified and honored by all. So he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as was his custom, he entered the synagogue on the Sabbath and stood up to read. The scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to announce release, pardon, forgiveness to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, downtrodden, bruised, crushed by tragedy." Again, this is in the Amplified. Usually it's much more succinct than that, but this is to kind of be able to expand what he's saying there, I guess, and to help us understand it. And it says to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord. And then in parentheses it says the day when salvation and the favor of God abound greatly. Then he rolled up the scroll, having stopped in the middle of the verse, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. And the eyes of all those in the synagogue were attentively fixed on him. He began speaking to them. "Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing and in your presence." And then they were all in awe of him. Now, what I wanted to say about that is about the souls that are caged. They're enslaved in a place where people have traded off their own I amness, their own thoughts and feelings and needs and, their own pieces of their soul. This is what we've done. All of us have done this in some way. And some of us have done it in a large chunk. Where, whether it's a metaphorical sense or on a spiritual plane, where your soul has felt imprisoned, or you've maybe felt like a backseat passenger in your own life, in your own vehicle, in your own body even. Like in being John Malkovich, where you're like trapped in John. We're all inside John Malkovich. Oh, wow. Okay, that'd be a trip. Anyway, it's like you're trapped in your own being, and you'd feel like in so many ways you've sold out what you like, who you are, what you're about, how you feel, what you need. And, as a people pleaser, as a recovering people pleaser, and now a devoted God pleaser, hopefully. Hopefully and hopelessly devoted to the Lord. I think we learn how to shift that, what would you call it? The desire to please people, you shift it. You're programmed in some way to please. You're programmed to please. Shift it over to Jesus. Almost feels like you can't go wrong if we were to really live in that mindset. Live to please the Lord, live to glorify the Lord. Does this glorify the Lord, or does this not glorify the Lord? Anyway, so the way we've lost some of our souls, they've been fragmented, they've been broken, like our hearts. If you think of your soul as your heart being crushed fragments of it are left in other places. And the Lord wants to gather all those fragments back up. Wherever they're locked up, He's unlocked those doors. And your soul is free in Jesus' name. Just have to call it back home. So release to the captives. That's pardon, forgiveness. If you've been at the crossroad and you took a left when you really could have taken a right, and you've received the gift of God, His free forgiveness for you, His free pardon, then you're released from that. You're released from the soul obligations that might be incurred when you go into agreement. So release to the captives, freedom for the captives, forgiveness and pardon. And then setting free those who are oppressed as well. That's downtrodden, crushed by tragedy. The Lord's presence and His love is brought to earth. His frequency is brought to earth to heal you from the crushing of life. That life here in this place where we're learning, you can think of it as a school, but it's also a place that we've kind of chosen in some direction to need to learn through these conditions of pain and struggle and suffering and sacrifice and things like that. And all the rest of that stuff. Goodness gracious. So the Lord wants to set at liberty, set free those who are oppressed and downtrodden, bruised by iniquity. That means wicked people have come up against you and bruised you, hurt you. Jesus wants to set you free from that. The oppression that takes place with that bruising, with the tragedies of life, so that you're not bitter, so that you can forgive. He wants to remove the weight of the oppression. Crushed by tragedy. He wants to lift up those who are crushed by tragedy. And He wants to give you a perspective, a new programming, that life doesn't end here when we lay down these meat suits. That if you think of it like your phone, just because you don't have your physical phone doesn't mean that its personality wasn't backed up somewhere. You as a person, you are not your body. Your body is a vehicle that you were given to get around in. And when our names are written in His book of life, then we are permanently registered in the kingdom of heaven as His children. And the key to getting there isn't perfection on our part, it's faith. Putting faith in the one who saves us, and the only one that can, and the only one that has the vibration that saves, the love that saves and heals. He can set you free. If you've been held captive by the devil, He can set you free. If you've been held captive by grief, He can help you grieve. And He can give you a new heart to replace your crushed one. He came to bind up your demolished heart with His love. And a new vision to know that after this, there's a better place. There's a better body. There's a better place. There's a lot more love. And the King of love is happy to pour out His kingdom and His love and His light and all of His blessings, because it's a never-ending abundance into eternity. It's not a scarcity. Everybody just only gets the one little. and it's better. There's no fear. There's no lack. It's a little bit like a lucid dream. You don't lack anything in a lucid dream. You just say, how about a Boston cream pie? Poof, there it is. Yum. I just gave myself a wicked idea. Okay. Release to the captives. Pardon to the captives. You've been held captive by the deals you've done. He wants to pardon you from all that. He's unlocking your cage. And your cage is unlocked, and your cage, and your little lobster cage is just ripped right open, and your little lobster... I don't know how to get people out of lobster cages. I guess you'd snip it, maybe? Maybe I need clippers. Snippers. You're snipped out, and you're snipped out. And you can reclaim space in your body, reclaim space in your home, reclaim space in your mind, reclaim space in your heart. Any place where the devil's taken over, you just say in the name of Jesus, out. Scram. Okay. Thank you, Lord, by the way. All right. So release to captives, setting free those who are oppressed, downtrodden, crushed by tragedy. See, that's the thing, this bruising by iniquity. A lot of us have been hurt, and unfairly, unjustly. The Lord even paints a picture in heaven where people are at the throne wondering, when is justice coming? And he's like, just be patient. Once we're all together, once everybody's been martyred and raptured and brought home, then we'll have our big party, and then the rest is history. It rolls out from there. Gosh, golly. Okay. And then the good news to the poor. If you think about, the Lord is happy to pour His Spirit out. He's happy to give His kingdom to His children. And people who are struggling, people who live in poverty, people who are, have so much room for the enemy to come in and hassle them. Understanding that God will provide, God does provide, and a lot of the fear that we carry about stuff like that is really just ingrained in us in these faulty programs. What Jesus said is, if He takes care of the birds, why wouldn't He take care of you? Aren't you worth more than a bird? I mean, most of you are. I'm just kidding. You're all worth more than birds, I hope. Okay. I mean, I say that because I keep thinking there's somewhere in my mind, and maybe there's just a science fiction movie, but there's somewhere in my mind that there's a devil who's like building bodies, just like they're growing meat in trays in laboratories, and they're printing it in 3D printers. I think there's probably bodies in 3D printers, and there's probably bodies grown in these like grown bodies that then they somehow animate or something. I don't know. Gross. Lord only knows what these things are doing, because now they've got the AI to work through. Some of the fallen angels have been stuck in the dark, but now what are we doing with CERN and all the skadooching with these molecules or whatever we're doing? What are we doing? We're helping the fallen angels is what we're doing. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, it's going to come about the way that Jesus said it would, because that's already so far happened so much. Why wouldn't it keep happening? Because He is a true prophet. Things He's saying are coming true, and this is what, People can sometimes be prophetic, but that doesn't mean you're like a prophet, Like Jesus is a true prophet. All right, let's see. Yeah, there. I'm just wondering about the mason jar. Okay. Maybe you could store a soul like in a jug, like you keep milk in or something. Let's not give them ideas. Okay. Well, or maybe we need to transport. Is it what? Okay. I don't need to know all the details. Thank you, Lord, for freeing people's souls and whatever that means, and whatever soul capacity that is, whether it's fiction, whether it's translates in the 3D, whatever happens. Thank you for freeing people. and for binding up the broken hearts, and whatever way that translates for people in the 3D. Because people suffer in all different ways. There's earthquakes. God help those people. God help people be rescued and found and helped and rehomed. And help their pets and stuff too. You know, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But it will get better. Okay. Let's see. Just have a note about when people are referring to other people as gods or to themselves as gods or something like little g God. I just don't. That always rubs me the wrong way. I would just say be cautious in using that word, throwing that word around. There's only one God. There are entities that play God and they act like gods, but they're like fallen creatures and stuff. And you know, there's a God Squad. They have their own titles and stuff. Anyway, that's just a thought. Oh, and then I kept thinking about swan hunting. It really haunted me for some reason. The swan hunter haunting. So then I started thinking about like Kentucky Fried Swan. Like imagine instead of chicken if we just decided to go with that. And then I was looking up earlier like birds of a feather. Like are eagles and vultures birds of a feather? And then I thought are eagles and chickens birds of a feather? Of course they're not. And then just the description that the AI come up with about chickens, they're like that they're real plump bodies and tiny little wings. And that they can't really, they sort of flap for a second, but they can't really fly. I was like, that's true. If you look at a bird, if you've ever cooked a chicken, you see how small its wings are compared to its giant body. Like it couldn't get very far, could it? And of course, an eagle and a vulture are not birds of a feather. Vultures are much grosser. They're much grosser in many ways. You know what I was remembering about was, I think it was a Joyce Meyer sermon I saw a long time ago, about how don't be an eagle stuck in a chicken coop. Hey, will you not just sit there? Here, go on. Go on, baby. Go on, go on, go on. Go on, sweetheart. Go on. You can't park and lick, especially not right where I sleep. Go. She says at me. I just realized she was sitting right where I sleep and just licking and licking. I mean, maybe she is from another planet. It's possible. Here to torture us, spy on us, and lick. And bring dead animals. Okay, I mean. All right, so delicacies of swan. Yeah, that was really disturbing to me somehow. It just seems really mean or cruel or something to like butcher an animal that's beautiful. It's sort of like squashing a butterfly or something. Like nobody does that either. Even though if you look closely at the butterfly, it's just like a bug in there. It just happens to have pretty wings. It's still kind of creepy looking. Although even bugs have little personalities if you look closely enough. God has made things so diverse and weird, and again, I feel like some things are created just to make us laugh because he loves to make you laugh. Okay. What else? Yeah, I think he's trying to say that as we lose this spirit of fear, which he did not give us, by the way. God did not give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of courage. And he says, use it. Pick it up. Take it. What Dr. Peterson was saying earlier in one of the lectures I was listening to was, you have to know what to be afraid of, and then the courage is not as hard to come by. I think some people are afraid of the wrong things. That's what I was trying to say about the fear of man versus the fear of God. Like, you should be more afraid to, like, just turn your back on God and miss your calling. And maybe even be penalized for it, like he was talking about Jonah. And you'd be better off. I mean, Nobody wants to be in a whale. You'd be better off just tackling it, just going for it, just heeding your call. Don't run from your call. Okay, what else do I have? What else do we have here? Swan hunters. Yeah, we got that. Oh wait, hold on. What was that part? Right. I mean, I guess that the point from my note earlier about, I have a note about altering reality. Like, as soon as you can get rid of the fear and you can live more like if you remember you're dreaming, then you can fly. I don't mean literally, but I mean figuratively. That if you can, if you've ever woken up inside of a dream, and then you can reach a place in your waking life where you think more like you do in that dream life, then things loosen up a little bit. There's an alignment there of an understanding and an appreciation that things have an order and have a flow, and that there's no fear, that you have no reason to fear. I guess that's one thing I hadn't thought about. Even though you can't control everything in a lucid dream, and I don't try to lucid dream, it's just sometimes it happens. You can't control everything that happens, but because you can do anything at all that you decide on, then nothing scares you. Like, if something tries to chase you, you just fly away. You're like, see ya. Or if you're me, you just say, I'd like to be on a horse now, and now I'd like to fly away. Or whatever. Go on, baby. Please don't park up here. I know. I love you too. Here, go on. Go on. She's very clingy tonight. Go on. It's probably because it's been so rainy. She's been kind of stuck inside. Go on. Thank you. I know. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. How are you? How's your pets? How are your feral pets? She was sort of just coughed up by the woods. She was not the chosen. We get the chosen one, and then we have the feral one. The feral one's name is Puffa Dunka Dubal. The chosen one is Sunny Tetrasini. Now, they are very different. Very different. So, I mean, the feral one's the one that keeps on bringing in animals. She keeps killing things. She keeps racing around suddenly in the middle of the night. She's a nut. But it was like the woods barfed her up, and she just showed up, and she sort of like had a weird one-eyed like showdown with that face. This little tiny kitten one-eyed showdown with the dogs. She was way tinier than should have been weaned. So she was like an underweight little teeny kitten. So she showed up, and she had to fuss down with the dogs and hissed at them real bad and scared them. Which must be one of my favorite cartoons, that Hello Kitty one. And then River, scooped her up and brought her in the garage. And I guess that's how she ended up ruling the roost here. Now she's in charge of everything now, and she's very needy. Oh, good. Gosh, that scared me. I thought maybe the dogs got into something, but I think it's just the kids getting some ice. Okay, what's my point? Oh, when that cat was so little that I had to nurse the cat with a little bottle, and she would sleep right curled up right on my neck there, and she would wake up and just start trying to get milk out of my neck. I was like, "There's no milk in the neck. You won't get milk from there." Anyway, her beginning was very sweet, but it just got a little bit more wild, a little bit crazier. She's like an attack cat now. If you lunge at me, she might attack you. She's not afraid. She has no fear, that cat. She will lunge. All right. There we go. What else do I have in my notes here? Boy in the Bubble. I was thinking about when I was a kid, I used to love these after-school movies, and there was one called The Boy in the Bubble with John Travolta. John Travolta. I used to love that. What a cutie. It was one of those after-school specials that, if I knew it was going to be on, I'd be excited to get home. I'd be like, I want to get home. I probably wouldn't have told anybody, though, because I would know it'd be really goofy. Gotta get home to watch The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. I don't know if you guys remember that. It's been years and years since I've seen it, but every now and then it pops up in my mind. And I remember him wanting to go out and be in the world, but he had to be in a bubble of some kind for some reason. I think he had like an immune disorder or something. I'm not really sure, but what was it about that? I don't even really understand what it was about that, but I think it was just John Travolta, maybe. Because he's a cutie. But it was sort of, I think, I don't want to have a spoiler alert, but I think it might have a tragic ending, if I recall. I used to love movies with tragic endings. I don't know why. Like, as a kid, I would love to just be like, boo-hooing, you know. I don't really like stuff that's that emotional anymore. And I like, there's a few films I'd like to see or things, but some of them seem too scary. The older I get, the younger I get. And I'm like, no, I'm like a toddler. I can't tolerate, like, can't tolerate scary things. It's scary. Okay. All right. That's fine. I'm talking myself into being scared of the cats. I'm going to need to cuddle with them pretty soon to... The cats are not the enemies, don't worry. What else do we have here? Push. I keep thinking push. There are times where we're going to have to push, where it feels like sluggish, where it feels like the enemy wants to put cement in your boots or something. You know, you just sometimes have to push. Just push yourself. Just want to remind some of you that. It's like the enemy wants to zap your energy. He wants to zap your motivation. Remember, if you lack motivation, that's sort of a witchcrafty kind of thing. That's sort of something you can just cast down in Jesus' name. Break it and cast it down. You know? I've heard that's like, that could be an atmosphere around you, you know, that you can clean up spiritually. Yeah, basically the enemy doesn't want you to do stuff. He doesn't want you to heed any sort of call in your life. I was thinking about, speaking of call in your life, I was thinking about the difference between worldly ambition and then godly ambition.